What's up, y'all? This is Hussein Nasser from iGeometry, where we discuss software engineering by example. This episode, we will discuss get versus post, and we will show practical examples of both using JavaScript and HTML, right? So a very simple practical example here explaining the differences between these two methods. Let's just jump into it. How about that? So because we're gonna use a practical example, so this episode will be, or this video will be on the longer side. So you can watch the first 2 minutes where we just define what are those two methods, right? And the differences, slightly differences between them. If you're interested to watch how you can implement each of them, you can continue watching the rest of the video. All right, so let's just jump into it. So get and post are actually just simple HTTP method. So the HTTP protocol was designed with a certain number of methods. So the HTTP will have a header, will have a body, and it will have a method. Get and post are just two of those methods. There are others as well. Get is used, the protocol says, if you're gonna use get to request something from a server using the HTTP protocol, get supposed to read only, right? Supposed to be idempotent, supposed to just read, so it doesn't change any state on the server, right? So that's what you're supposed to do, right? So obviously HTTP doesn't enforce you to do these things, right? If you're building your own web server, you can do pretty much anything you want, and that's why people start abusing these things, right? That's why you have to understand, if there's semantic, you have to just adhere to these semantics. So get, if you make a request to get, it will just, for example, give me all the users that starts with the letter A, or just give me all the tables that all the rows in a database that have this column, right? So you're requesting something from a server, and the server will do the query, does the job, and return you some results. So that's the get. It's read, supposed to be just read. If your get method somehow doesn't touches something on the server, then you're doing it wrong. Not to say that you can do it. You can actually do this today if you do a get method, and you can just, for example, create a row or create a user, just nothing stopping you, because this is an open protocol, but you'll be violating, quote unquote, violating the protocols. Does that make sense? All right, so this is the get. Get is supposed to read. Post, guess what? Supposed to create, right? So post, when you do a post method on a web server, you should basically create something right at the back, and you should change something. You should only use post when you want to change something. So for instance, if I go to www.google.com, the browser makes a get request all the time. This thing always makes a get request. Give me the google.com page, right? So that's when you hit enter, that's a get request always, right? Posts are a little tricky to make. It's not hard, but you can't use the browser to make a post. Actually, you have to write some HTML code, and we're gonna do this today in this episode. So that's why it's gonna be on the longer side. But yeah, get versus post. Get supposed to read something like the browser is doing that now, and post is supposed to change something at the back end, right? So you create versus read. Think of it this way. There are other two methods like put and delete, and I forgot the rest, but they do other semantics, actually your crude semantics. All right, guys, I think with that's the differences between the get and post, really, right? So there are not much differences, as you can see. That's it. That's the only difference between this. This is supposed to read, this is supposed to post, right? So you know when to use. If you came to for this video to know when to use when, ask yourself this question, right? I am making a request. What is the kind of this request? Is it reading from my server? Is it just like I'm pulling a text file? Is it reading some list somewhere? Am I reading a list of tweets, for example, from a user? That's a GET request. Am I changing something? Am I changing something to the user? Am I creating a new user? Am I creating a new record in a database somehow? Does my request that I'm gonna send right now does something at the server, at the backend, right? In that case, use post, right? So that's the semantics. How about we jump to code? All right, I'm gonna write everything from scratch as usual on this channel, guys. We explain everything, try actually at least to explain everything by example. So let's jump to it. On this machine I have Node.js installed, so just literally go to Google and just download Node.js and install it, and that's pretty much all you need to follow up with this example, right? So what we want to do here, maybe actually let's show you guys what we're trying to build here. How about that? I think so, right? I think it's a good idea to show you what we're building. So what we're going to build is a web server here. That's what we're going to build, and this web server will have two methods, right? We'll have a get, and we'll have a post, and we'll have also to return the index.html, which is the HTML page. And the client here will have, can I do a form here? Yeah, why not? So we'll do a form, and literally that form will have a button here. There you go. So this will have button called get and a button called post. Right? Why is this turn black or some reason? All right, so that's what we're trying to build here, right? So when I call get, it will call literally the get method corresponding on the web server that we're trying to build here. So that will be Node.js. That's where we're building everything from scratch. And get will be the HTML file that we also are gonna write here, and that will send a get command to the web server and say, hey, I'm just sending you a simple get, and the server will return said I received your get command. And the post will do the same thing, but it will send a post request instead, right? And we're gonna see how we can actually build those two. Let's get to it, guys. Okay, so that's what we're trying to build here. Okay, let's jump to it, guys. All right, so what do we have, man? I'm gonna go to a new folder. I'm just gonna create a brand new folder. Let's call it, I'm gonna get post, right? That's an example. So we're gonna create a folder called get post. Is it empty? Let's double check that. Get post, brand new. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to use Vim to create a new index.js file, and that will be my server, right? Maybe we can call it server.js. That doesn't matter anyway. So what I want to do here, again, guys, you need Node.js installed. Once you have one Node.js installed and Vim, the editor, or just pick your favorite editor. Visual Studio Code is really cool, but I've just for simplicity, I'm going to type everything in the command line using Vim, which is a command line text editor. All right, let's write some code. I'm gonna write an app here. Now, guys, I'm gonna write this really quickly because I already explained how to build a web server. I'm gonna reference the link here if you want interesting. But we're gonna build an Express server real quick. So I'm gonna acquire Express here. And that's the framework for Node.js to build a web server. Okay, so I have an app here, and then what I want to do is do the following. Should we do the index HTML? Nah, let's build this first. Right, so I'm gonna do a get. When I do this get, that means if the client sent you, this is the server, guys, remember, if the client sent you as a get request on the root, which is, remember, like google.com/, this slash is the root, right? Or your server slash. If someone sent you a get request on this on the root, execute this function. That's exactly what it means, right? And when you execute that function, you get two free parameters here: request and response. What do you want with these? What do you want to do with these two requests, right? The request and a response. And I am not gonna do anything here. I'm just gonna return to the server, to the client, that hey, response.send says, hey, I got a, I'll just say get received. Why not? That's it. And I'm gonna do the same thing, but guess what? With a post. If someone sent me a post request, I'm gonna execute this function instead. Respond.send, hey, post received. Did I spell received correctly? Yes, I did. All right, and that's it. And we just need to install Express because we just used it, right? So we have to install Express. And then once we install Express, we have to initialize npm here. Let's just use the default stuff, index.js. Yes, that's my file. This command is not dot to execute the index.js, and yeah, everything is good. All we have to do is run npm test, which is the test command. And what are we getting here? Getting an error, right? Looks like an error. Npm test. Oh, we forgot something very important, I think. Wow, we forgot to listen, right? Well, we want to listen to a port, right? We forgot the most important piece. So this code actually executes that, but we never actually, for the web server, we never listened to a port, right? We forgot that part. So we need to listen to this port, and if the listening was successful, right, listen on request on HTTP protocol on port 8080, and when that is happening, just say listening on port 8080. The simple stuff. And now we say npm test. That's more like it. Listening of ports, and that's it. Your stuff is ready now, right? So listening on port 8080. Sweet. So now if I do localhost 8080 and then slash, guess what? Hey, Git was received. Remember, guys, because the browser always send a Git request, this guy was executed. Remember the first line. Maybe we'll just open another one to show you, right? How about that? cd get post vim index.js. So who got executed in this case? This thing got executed because we sent a git command, so this function got executed. And you can do fancy stuff here, right? You can start doing fancy stuff like your function, this line will be replaced with your query to the database, with your list, with your function, with your fancy function that does work, right? Essentially. Okay. All right, I think we're gonna exit this thing. Let's close that thing, and I go to back full screen again. All right, so now we want to, let's kill this, and I want to build an index.html page now, right? And because I'm going to build an index.html, and yeah, let's just do a body, and we need two buttons, id get, yeah, let's call this get, right, guys? And I'm going to use another button here called post. So this will send get, this will send, guess what, post. So that closes. I don't want to close the body yet. I need maybe close the body here. That's pretty cool then. All right, and I'm gonna write a script here that says const get equal document get element by id get, and then const post equal document did I misspell that, get element by id post. So get those elements, and then we're gonna add event listener. No, I can't spell anymore. All right, so on click, when someone clicks, I want to do the following. I want to execute this code, right? Yeah, let's just do an event, why not? And then that's the code. When someone click, I want to execute a get request, right? And when someone clicks here, event listener, I want to execute this code. So what is this code? That will be an Ajax request using the HTTP XML object. So to do that, we'll have to declare a variable called HTTP called equal new HTTP XML HTTP request, right? So just by doing that, we can now open a request onto our site. And guess what? To do that, we can do dot open, and the first thing we do is we do HTTP localhost 8080. I want you to request that, but what do you want to request? The first thing you want to do, I want to do a get request. For each request, you have to specify what do you want to do. Like, what are you trying to do here? I want to send this a get request here, right? So we're doing something simple. We're not sending any parameters. We're just asking the server, says, hey, that's a get request. Usually your get request will get fancy and you're gonna send parameters and you're gonna send some stuff and then some parameters and some body or JSON perhaps, right? What I want to do is HTTP dot, what are we gonna do here? We will on ready state change if that request, by default this is an asynchronous request, and I made a video about asynchronous versus synchronous video. I'm gonna reference it here as well, guys, for you to know the difference between the two. And yeah, when you do an on ready state change, when the state of that request changes, execute that function. And what's this function? It's just another fancy function, right? And it says if the http.ready state equal 4 means it's ready, essentially, right? There's I think an enumeration, but I don't remember it, right? I don't care about the response really, the HTTP code response. So if that is ready, I just want to alert that whatever we respond, so what do you call response text, I think that's what we get, response text. So let's test that out. I really doubt that I'm gonna nail this from the first time, but let's do that. So I'm gonna send that request here. So open, when they're ready, just go ahead and send it. So let's just go ahead and try that out, guys. But before we do that, I want to do one small change in the index.js, which is, you know, guys, we built an HTML file, we built an index.js, which is the server side. The HTML file, it will be the client side app, right? But we need to send that back, right? I want to send that index.html file for the client to be able to execute. Remember, everything I write here is on the server side. That's my server. My Mac is actually the server here. And I don't know, what do we call it? Home? I don't know, something like that. And same thing, if someone makes a get request on the /home this time, not the slash, right? I want you to go ahead and execute what? Not send. I'm gonna send an entire file, and directory name is actually the current directory. That's for security reasons, right? We don't do dot relative things for the security reasons. I'm not gonna explain it right in this episode, but essentially we don't want to have access to have the users trick us and retrieve like passwords and files from the server, right? And index.html, I think that's what should we do. That's it. We send back if someone requests the home page, right? We're gonna send back the thingy. So still works. If I do home, oh, that's my code, right, guys? That's the code I just wrote, and I received it. And if I open my iPhone right now, and I do, I think it's called Hussein Mac. That's my laptop name. If I do Hussein Mac from my iPhone, I will get the same page. That's the beauty of basically networking, right? If I do git, oh shoot, that did not work. Yeah, so the server responded with the status of XML HTTP request is not. Oh, I think yeah, XML. I think XML is a capital L, right, guys? Did I misspell that? Yeah, just a stupid typo. I think so. All right, let's give this a shot. And yeah, so looks like the GET request was executed successfully. So time to do a POST request. How about that, guys? All right, so since we did that, let's go ahead and copy this code. Paste. And then, you guessed it, guys, right? Change the GET request to a POST request. And let's give this a shot. Guys, I'm gonna share this code in the description below so you can take a look at it, so you don't have to like pause the video and take a look. But in general, you can find it here. And yeah, let's just try this now. Get and post. So the cool thing about this is now, instead of doing an if statement, say, hey, if there's something get, it's like a lot of people, what they do, and I've been a criminal of this. I've done this before. Is they would do like /create or /read, something like that, right? So you create different endpoints, right? Nothing wrong with that, but you can avoid creating multiple endpoint and instead have one endpoint with multiple methods, right? So for example, if you do a get, do this. If you do a post, do this, right? So that's pretty cool. So you have the same URL, right? But if you do a get, you do that, and then if you do a post, you execute completely different function, and that's pretty cool. And I think it's a very simple design in your REST API architecture, I think, right? So you define like, oh, if someone sent me a GET request, I will execute this. If I somebody a post, I will execute that, and so on. All right, guys, I think that is all for us today. And obviously, not the only methods you can execute through the browser. You can execute via curl. Curl is a command it's a very nice command that is available in almost, I think, all operating systems. You have to install it. It will just allow you to send a query through it to a URL. So you would do is like, hey, I want to send a get command to HTTP localhost 8080, and we'll receive it, right? I just received a get command, right? And then if you do -x post, 80 just guess what, maybe we should have just done that, guys, right? But I like, I know the episode is like really long, but but the idea is just like to explain how many ways you can really write your code, and how can basically how many uh, uh, um, opportunities you have to execute certain code, right? I like to explain certain things multiple way for different people to really cement the idea. All right, guys, that is all for me today. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hit that like and subscribe for more content. Check out the other software engineering by examples content on iGeometry, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. You guys stay awesome.